This is Gemara in Sotah, Daf Lamed Hey, and we're holding on the very bottom of Lamed Dalid Amid Beis, the final line as we continue discussing the parsha of the Meraglim. Yesterday we dealt extensively, and we continue the last three lines, Lamed Dalid Amid Beis, Yashuvu Mitur Haaretz, and the Meraglim returned from spying out the land, and now we discuss the return journey as the pasuk continues. Vayelchu, and they went. Vayavoyu, and they came to whom? The pasuk tells us, to Moshe and Aharon. And it continues the Gemara, the top line of Lamed Hey Amid Aleph. Amar Rav Yochanan teaches, Rav Yochanan Mishom Rashbi. Rav Yochanan says the name of Rishima Yochai Yontif Alag Vaymer on the horizon. Makish Halicha Libya. We make a hekish. We equate. They're going with Libya. They're coming. Ma'abiyah, just like when they came, Beitzara was with their bad advice, their evil design of Halicha. Beitzara, and the pasuk continues. Vayisabru loi, and they reported. Vayimru, and they said, Banu, we came. This is the Meraglim talking about that, which they saw. Even the pasuk says, Ephes. Ki azam, the nation is strong. So first they spoke nicely of Eretz Yisrael, and then they continue as the first pasuk talks about Eretz Avos Chalav Udvash, and then the next pasuk talks how they would not be able to conquer it. Rav Yochanan explains, Amar Rav Yochanan, 5 lines down, Misham Remeir, Kol Lashon Hara She'im Bo Dvar Emes B'Tchilasai. Any Lashon Hara that doesn't begin with a little bit of truth. We know in psychology this is the same. Then what? Ein Miskayim L'Sofe will not be established at the end. If you just speak evil, if you just speak Lashon Hara, no one wants to listen to you. You start off with something real, you start off with something true. They started off that Eretz Yisrael was Eretz Avos Chalav Udvash. The people are listening. Then they begin with their evil, negative report. Continues the psukim. We know that we have Kalev and Yeshua opposing. Vayas Kalev Esam. And Kalev was Yahas. Vayahas. He quieted the people. El Moshe to Moshe. Amar Rabba teaches Rabba. She'isita midvarim. What did Kalev do? He quieted them, he enticed them with words about Moshe Rabbeinu. Pasach Yeshua to come Ishtai. Because he saw that when Yeshua began to talk against the Meraglim, Amrulei, the people said, Dein Roish Ketia Yimalel. Should this severed head speak before us? And they quickly silenced Yeshua. Yeshua had no children, so they felt that's why he didn't care, because there would be no Yerusha. So Kalev sees, Amar Kalev says, Imishta'ina, says Kalev, if I speak like Yeshua, Amri be milsavachasminli, they're going to do the same thing, they're going to quiet me. So rather, what does Kalev do? Amar Lahem, Kalev says, V'chizu belvad asalanu ben Amram. Is this only that which ben Amram, Moshe Rabbeinu, did for us? So the people are quiet and sabri. They think for a moment. They think that he's speaking negatively of Moshe Rabbeinu. They think that Kalev is continuing the evil talk of the Meraglim. So shtiku. The people were quiet and they listened. Amar lahu, but Kalev continued. He took us out of Mitzrayim. He split the sea and he gave us the man. If he tells us to make a ladder and go up to heaven, should we not listen to him? Of course we should. So let us go up and we'll be able to defeat the people and we'll be able to conquer Eretz Yisrael. So Kalev began by pretending to talk negatively of Moshe Rabbeinu. The people were quiet. But then he continues by speaking against the Meraglim. And the psukim continue, V'anashim, and the men, Asher alu imai, that went with him, the Meraglim, Amru lo nuchal, they going there. They said, we can't conquer the land. Amar Rav Chanina bar Papa, Teaches Rav Chanina bar Papa, or 20 lines down, the first one line is Papa. Davar gadol dibru meraglim. The meraglim said something, a great and terrible thing by Shah. Ki chazak hu mimenu. It is stronger than us, mimenu, al tigru mimenu. Ella, rather, how should we darsh in the pasuk? Not mimenu, but rather mimenu, than he, kaviyachol. What were the meraglim saying? Afilu balabayis, ino yachol la'itzi kelav misham. Even the balabayis, even HaKadosh Baruch Hu, cannot remove the kelav, literally the utensils, from there. They were insinuating that the Canaanim are so strong, even stronger than HaKadosh Baruch Hu themselves. So aside from the fact that the Meraglim spoke negatively about Eretz Yisrael, they at some level were over in Kfira. Misham Eretz Eicheles Yishva, it's a land that eats up its inhabitants. He Darash Rava Darshin Zamar Kadosh Baruch Hu. Ani Chashavti Olitoivo. I intended it for good, that the spies, the Meraglim, saw people dying. They thought it for the bad. Ani Chashavti Olitoivo, that what? That wherever they went, wherever the Meraglim went, Meis Chashiva did too. One of the Canaanim would die. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is showing that they're not so strong. For what reasons? So that the Canaanim would be so busy burying their dead. And the Canaanim would not ask, who are you people? Who are these Meraglim? Who are these spies that are walking and spying amongst us? But the people, of course, the Meraglim took it another way. Another pshat. Eov died. They're all saying Espedim on Eov. And so continues the Gemara that the Meraglim interpreted for the bad, saying that you cannot survive in this land. And we continue quoting the psukim of the Meraglim, and we are in our own eyes like chagavim, like grasshoppers, and so too we were v'gaimer. Omar Rav Misharshia, about 10 lines. First one line is Misharshia from the medium-sized lines. Says, remember, Misharshia Meraglim Mishakriyavu. The Meraglim were liars. The fact that they said that we appeared in our own eyes like grasshoppers, that we can understand. That's what they themselves were thinking. So too we appeared in their eyes. How do they know? How do they know how they appeared in the eyes of the Meraglim? But continues the Gemara, it's not true. For when the Merayim served the meal for the Avelim, Tuti arza have mavri. They served it under a cedar tree. V'chichazinu and salku. Chichazinu, when the Meraglim saw them coming, they were afraid. So salku yasu beilani. They went up and they sat in the trees. The Meraglim, in order so no one should see them, shami dikamri. The Meraglim heard that the people were saying, Chichazinu inshi tedami lekamsu beilani. We see men that are like grasshoppers sitting in the trees. So it shows the Gemara that they actually were right, that they felt that they appeared as grasshoppers in the eyes of the Amoraim. Continues the Psukim. This is what the Meraglim told Klal Yisrael. 4 or 5 lines from the wide lines. Vatisa koleida. And the congregation raised, Vayinu as Koil, they raised their voices, Vayivku, and they cried, Amar Rav Yeichon Oisayim Erev Tisha B'Avaya. The famous line, that day, the day that they accepted the words, the terrible report of the Meraglim, was Erev Tisha B'Av. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says Hashem, Hein bachu b'chiyah shalchinam, they cried for naught. V'ani akaver lohem, I'm going to set for them, unfortunately, b'chiyah l'dairos. They will cry for generations. V'yamru kol eida l'ergoi maisam. And the psukim continue, l'ergoi maisam ba'avanim. And all the people started throwing stones at Yeshua and Kalev. Uksev ba'avanim uksev uchved Hashem nira ba'ayel ma'ir. And the pasuk says, in the honor of Hashem was in the Oyel Ma'ir. What does it say? Just Amar Chiv Rav Lamed. Shenalu avanim v'zarku klabe ma'ila. They took stones and Kavayachol, they tried to throw it at HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thinking that they could be done with such. Continues the psukim. And those who brought back the bad report, the Meraglim died. Rabim Agefon, a terrible plague. Amar Rav Shimon ben Lakish Emesu Misa Mishuna. They didn't just die; they died a terrible death. Amar Rav Chanina bar Pop on the third white line Darsh of Shila Ishkvar Tamarta. Melamed, what does this teach us? Their tongues started swelling and getting longer and longer and hung all the way down to their belly button. And maggots came out of their tongues, and entered into their navel, and came out of their navel, quite a gross sight, and entered onto their tongue. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Amar Basakra Mesa, they died of the death of a sakra, and that was the demise of the Meraglim, unfortunately. That was the Gezerah that unfortunately we are suffering for until this day, the Bechia Shalchinam of the Meraglim, of Klal Yisrael. Continues the Gemara, going back to Klal Yisrael, crossing over the Yarden. If you remember, we got sidetracked almost. We were in the middle of discussing Eretz Klal Yisrael, going through the Yarden, and then we got held up with the Meraglim. So now the Gemara goes back and teaches us that once Klal Yisrael went through the Yarden, the water went back. When the Kohanim carrying the Aron went through the Yarden, Nitku Kapois Ragla Kohanim El Acharava. What happened? The souls of the Kohanim moved onto dry land. In that moment, they took a step out, and boom, the waters started falling. And they ran like they were the previous day. Al Kol Gidaisav on all the river banks. So what happened? The Aron, the Kohanim, those carrying were on one side of the Yarden, but the Yisrael, Mitzad Echad, Yisrael, was on the other side. So how did the Aron, the Kohanim, get over? Nasa Aron es Noisav. The Aron carried those that carried it, Va'avar, and it flew across the Yarden. Shenamar, Vahi Kasher Tam Kol Am La'avar, as all the people finished crossing the Avar Aron Hashem. V'akayhanim of Ne'am al daber. Kanim of Ne'am. Continues the Gemara. Ve'el davar zen ashusa. On this thing, on the thing that the Aron was able to carry, those that carried it, this is why. Uzzah was punished. And Emar, as the Pasuk says, Vayavo ad Garain, as the Pasuk says, they're bringing back to Aron, and they came to the threshing floor, Kidain, Vayishlach Uzzah as Yadain, Uzzah reached out his hand, Lecha is this Aron, it looked like the Aron was falling off the wagon, so Uzzah sticks out his hand to catch the Aron. Amrullah HaKadosh Baruch Hu says Hashem Uzzah Noisei the Aron can carry those that carry it. Atzmai like Kol Shekein, it can't carry itself. And what happens? The Psukim continue. Vayichar af Hashem beUzzah. Hashem got very angry with Uzzah ve'akeu sham al hashal, and he hit him there for the shal. Rav Yechon Rav Elazar Chad Amar al iskei shaloi. What's al hashal? Al iskei shaloi, on the error that he did, that he reached out his hand and he touched the Aron. V'chad Amar she'asa tzaracha v'fanav Rachmana litzlan. What did Uzzah do? He used the bathroom in front of the Aron. And continues the Psukim v'yamasham im Aron u'alokim, and Uzzah died there next to the Aron of Hashem. Amar Rav Yechon Uzzah ba'al Eilam haba. Says Rav Yechonon, Uzzah came to Eilam haba shenemar im Aron Elokim, Aron Eilam kaya mav Uzzah ba'al Eilam haba. Vayichar leDavid asher parat Hashem. And the Psukim continue Vayichar to David, because Hashem made parat a breach, parat beUzzah, a breach in Uzzah. Says the Gemara, what's Vayichar? Amar Rav Elazar shenishtanu panav kicharada, that David's face was like a biscuit on coals, but kicharora, like on coals, he became very dark, he was very upset. Elameata says the Gemara, 5 lines to the bottom, kol echel t'chsev vayichar rachanami, is that what it means? Explains the Gemara, no. Hasak ksev af, achal loy ksev af. And we continue darshaning darash rava. Mibnei manen ash David, why was David punished? Neshekara ledivrei Torah zemiros, because David HaMelech called the Torah zemiros. a song. Shenemar, as a pasuk says, Zemirais ayu lichu kecha bebeis migurai. Your halachas, your statutes were zemirais to me, were songs to me, bebeis migurai, in my dwelling. Amar Lei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Divrei Torah shekasav bahem, the words of the Torah that it says, Hetif einecha boi, that if you close your eyes, veinenu, it's gone. Ata kairos on zemiros, Yudav and Amelech, 3 lines to the bottom, or calling them zemiros, Areni machshilcha b'davar, I'm going to make you stumble with something. Something! Shafilu tinaika shall be Rabban yoidin oisai. David HaMelech, you're belittling the words of Torah, and of course, whatever this means. On David HaMelech's Madriga says that Kadosh Baruch Hu, I'm going to test you with something so simple that every child knows. As the Psukim say, the sons of Kos did not give the wagons for the Avodah HaKodesh. David brought them on the wagons. That even though it's a known fact that you don't carry the Aron on a wagon, David HaMelech made this mistake that he put the Aron on top of a wagon. He continues the Psukim Vayach Manshei Beis Shemesh, and he smote amongst the men of Beis Shemesh ki ra'u ba'aron, because he saw, because they gazed on the Aron misham the ra'u vayach, because they looked at the Aron, they were punished. Really, for looking at an Aron, one is deserving of death. Rather, explains the Gemara on the last line of Lamed Hey Amud Aleph, Rav Avuah, Rabbi Elazar. They were bowing, they were reaping, they were continuously doing such in front of the Aron, meaning they didn't stop working. And the other opinion is, Mili Nami Namar, they said disrespectful words towards the Aron. Man Amrech Lu Damrai, as we turn over to Amrei Amid Beis, they said, who angered you? Who angered you when you were angry? Man also Allah Tinifais, and who's going to appease you? And they were speaking such degrading words, and therefore they were deserving of death. And the Psukim continues, Vayach Ba'am Shivim Ish, and 70 men died, Chamishim Elef Ish. 70 and 50,000 men, 50,000 and 70 men. Rav Avuah, Rav Elazar, Chanamar Shivim Ish ayu. V'chol echad ve'echad shakel. How great were these men? Chamishim Elef, like 50,000. Chanamar Chamishim Elef ayu. V'chol echad ve'echad shakel. Kishivin Sanhedrin. So either 50,000 men were killed, or it was just or it was just 50 men that were killed. Great, wonderful leaders. And continues the Psukim. Now we go back to David HaMelech transferring the Aron. And it was when those who were carrying the Aron walked, Shisha Tzadim, 6 steps. Umari and David HaMelech slaughtered an ox and a fatling. Shiva parim v'shiva elim. The David HaMelech shechted 7 parim and 7 elim. So I understand, what was the carbon of David HaMelech? Was it Shiva parim, Shiva elim, or was it Sharumari? Continues the Gemara, 10 lines down. The first line is Amar Papa Bar Shmuel Al Kol Psia Sharumari. On each and every step that they took, they shechted a shar. They shefted a Mary, but on the Al Kol Shisha V'Shisha Psiois, then for each 6 steps, then Shiva Parim V'Shiva Elim. Amar Li Rav Chisda Amkein, if it's true what you're saying, Milah says Kol Eretz Yisrael B'Amois. If they shechted so many animals, the entire Eretz Yisrael is going to be filled with mizbechais, with b'amois, elam, and Rav Chisda Al Kol Shisha V'Shisha Psiois. For all of these 6 steps that they took, Sharu Meri, Al Kol Shisha Sidarim, Al Kol Shisha Sidarim, Shal Shisha Psiois, for 6 orders of 6 steps, then Shiva Parim and Shiva Elim. So it's every 6 steps, and then for every order of 6 steps. Ksiv Ki Yidain says one pasuk, Uksiv Nachain, Amar Rav Yechran, Betzchila Ki Yidain. In the beginning, it was the Aron was called Kidain, Uvel Saif. Nachain is referred to as Nachain. And we continue with the 2 dots, about 15 lines down. Lamed Hey Amid Beis continues the Gemara back into the story from Amid Aleph, the story of Klal Yisrael crossing over the Yarden as Aaron carries the Kehanim over. Says the Gemara, Nimseis Ata Omer, comes out based on that which we are saying, That there were three sets of stones. Echad Moshe Be'eretz Moav, one that Moshe Rabbeinu set up in the land of Moav, Shenemar, Be'er Yardim Be'eretz Moav, Hoyel Moshe Be'er V'Gomer. Ula Alanu Omer, another pasuk says, V'chasavta Alein, it's called Divrei HaTorah Hazos. V'asya Be'er, within Be'er, V'echan, a second set of stones, Sheikim Yoshua B'techa Yardin. As we're learning over here, the Yeshua set up in the Yardin, Shenemar, Shtei Masrei, Avanim, Hakim Yoshua B'techa Yardin. And finally, finally, the set of stones that Yeshua set up in Gilgal, Shemar V'es, Shtim Esrei Avanim, Ha'ele, Asher Lo Kochta. And now that's the end of Klal Yisrael crossing over the Yarden. And we finish off today's Shir with one more Braisa, Tanu Rabbanan. We're about 20 lines to the bottom of Lamed Hey Amid. First line is Ha'ele. Keitzad Kosu Yisrael Es HaTorah. How did Klal Yisrael, we just said that they wrote the Torah on these stones, which was the Mizbeach, the Bamba, and Har Evel, Rav Yehuda Amar al Gabi Avonim. They wrote the Torah on the stone. Shenemar v'chsatim al Avonim. It's called Divrei HaTorah Hazos. V'achar kach sadu as Said after they wrote the Torah, they covered it with lime. Amrlo Yishim l'dvarecha. Heich lamdu umay shel oisei azman Torah. If it's true that they wrote the Torah, then they covered over with plaster. How did the nations learn the Torah? The writing of the Torah was covered over with the Sid. So Amar Lai Bina Yesira Nasav HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem gave them an incredible Bina insight, V'shigru Netirin Shalahan V'kilfu Asasid. And the Goyim sent their scribes and they peeled off the plaster. V'yisiru, and they carried away. V'davar Zeh. And on this matter, Nitchateim Gizardina L'Be'er Shachas. This was the final decree was sealed of that they're going to go to Be'er Shachas to get him Sheil and Lilmaid V'loy Lamdu. Because they could have learned Torah, Hashem enabled them, Hashem gave them all the abilities. But Lamaisa, they did not. If Shimon Aimer no, Gabi Sidkas, who they wrote on the lime, on the plaster after was covered of Kaslam Lamata. And so says Gemara, and they wrote below, what did they write for the nation of the Lamana? Shalo Yomdu Ascham Nasois Kachol. So you do not teach you to do everything Halamata, but that which you're able to learn, it says to the Gayim Shemei Chayzim B'Tshuva, Hayimekablan Aisan. If you do tshuva, we in Klal Yisrael will accept you. Amar Rav Shila, my time with Rav Shimon, where does Rav Shimon get this from? That the Torah was on top of the Seid, not on the stones themselves. Misrafais said they were burnings of plaster. Al Iske said this means they were burnt, the Goyim, because the matter of the plaster, they could have learned the Torah, but they did not. And finally, for Rav Yehuda, he said, Ma said, Ein lo takana el esreifa v'oisan akutim. There's nothing they could do aside for getting burnt for the lack of following the Torah, even though they were able to. We'll pick it up from Kiman in the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.